to settle down a bit.
Hello, everybody. So I did my senior project on basically what that title is. I basically made a website that displays coordinate data, and it's going to be eventually used to map coordinate data for finding orangutans in Borneo. So, oh, there we go. So let's kind of zoom out a little bit. So me and Richie, shouts out to Richie, are making a full system to find orangutans in Borneo. So in Borneo, there's mass deforestation, and so they're making these palm oil plantations. And so these orangutans go onto the palm oil plantations, they get capped, and there are a bunch of baby orphan orangutans out there in the world. And so these big NGOs go in and pick them up and want to release them back into the wild. And so they put a chip in their shoulder and want to see how they interact with the world. And so they want to find them later, right? So currently how they're doing it is they got these antennas and they're marching off into the Bornean jungle with antennas trying to find these orangutans. It's just not a very good system. So, and commercially available things like nice commercially available UAVs are really, really expensive. So why not hire, or not even hire, but just get a grad student to make one for you? So that's kind of what the whole thing is. So what did I do? So this whole project is kind of split into three parts. So there's the back end stuff, there's back end-ish coding, and then there's front end code. And so my senior project was the front end code. So that means like the website, and so you take coordinate data and then you upload it onto the website, you archive it so you can look through it, and then take a snapshot. But eventually, this summer, I plan to do more with radio, software-defined radio stuff. And at the beginning, it was more of looking at antennas and that kind of radio stuff, but it kind of morphed for my senior project to become this website. So that's really what this presentation is focused on. And so in the beginning, I had zero programming experience at all, and then after this, I know all these programming. They're not all different languages, but they're all different libraries and stuff. And so there's like a databasing, PHP, C#, Win, and all that stuff kind of went into making my project work. And so this is the final product. So it's got a map, it's got an archive thing, so you can search by date range, because the biologists, they wanted trends, so what better way to establish trends than looking at different dates. There's a file uploader, and there's a map downloader, so you can download an image of the map off the web. And it's pretty simple. And so this is kind of like the back end of the application. It looks a little nightmare, but essentially you take this main application, and that main application modifies and screws with the database using Node.js, which is a JavaScript library, and it just kind of manages the back end of the app. And then the database outputs to the open source mapping software that I use called OpenLayers, and then that OpenLayers goes into Handlebars, and Handlebars is a templating engine. So in modern web construction, it doesn't look like the 90s because there's like tabs and stuff like that. And so a templating engine is what you kind of use to make dynamic HTML. And so I use Handlebars in this case, and then whatchamacallit, the main application controls the layout, and then Twitter Bootstrap just makes everything look pretty. And so this is a little sample code, and I know that sample code is never good because nobody ever understands it, but I tried to break it down. So essentially, this form posts data to this URL. And so that means that on that URL, the main application takes the accepted file and puts it in the database. And that's essentially what it does. And this is a sample file that I was using. So instead of using actual orangutan data, I had to use earthquake data because that's extensively kind of mapped. And so they have JSON data, which is essentially what the database used, which made it really easy to put data taken from earthquakes and use it in context of the website. And then this is a small demo of OpenLayers, the mapping software that I used. And it's really, really simple. So you see there, it says target map. That basically just means put the map onto this HTML element so that you can display it on the page. And then it's organized in terms of layers. So a layer might be coordinates, it might be a map like this. And this code that I use right there is literally what I outputted onto the screen. So it's really simple, intuitive to use. And then, of course, for my real one, I used points, and then added a vector layer for that, and then view. And you can control the views to mess around with how the map looks, so that's a dynamic sort of interacting experience. And so this is my last bit of sample code that I wanted to show you. So this is the PNG download, so this just downloads an image of the map. And so you start off, you get a PNG export element. You say if there's a download in there, on click, you export it to this URL. And that's essentially what it does. Otherwise, display an error. And then this is just the form that I used. I mean, it's really, in the end, this website was only like 700 lines of code, so it was really pretty simple. Other features that I have on the website, I have a resizable scale, so it scales the map, so you can zoom in and out, and it'll shrink and expand to be the right kilometer per whatever unit area. And then zoom functionality, so there's just a plus and minus button, or you can like scroll with your mouse and drag and click and stuff like that. There's data type screening to make sure that you don't upload like an image into your coordinate database, stuff like that. Collapsibility, so to make it so that you can like half screen it without the website just like collapsing. And then an archive thing, so tentatively I plan to name these files by dates, and so just selecting a date range of files and taking it from the database and uploading it onto the map to more easily look at trends is kind of how I plan to do it. And there was possibly more that I could have added to this map that I kind of wanted to add, but I didn't end up adding. Heat map functionality. I didn't add this because the biologists that were a part of this said they didn't want heat maps, which didn't really make much sense to me, considering that they said they wanted to establish trends, and heat map seems to be the best way to do that. But I kind of wanted to do that, but it ended up getting booted. I might end up making a completely different site for another similar project about tracking dogs in Africa. And then I also kind of wanted to have a meta-analysis page where we just kind of looked at kind of the big picture of a lot of the data that's been submitted and then output it onto the screen. And then WMS is just kind of a convenient way that I should be able to display that. And so, struggles, transmitters. We got the transmitters from the biologists, and they did not work. They were just about as functional as tones. We like poked them with oscilloscopes, and they gave us like 50 of them. I mean, maybe not 50, I don't know. There was a lot of transmitters and nothing's working, and it's just kind of a broken piece of the system. It's a legacy piece of equipment. It was from the 80s, they don't even sell them anymore. And even though they're like, theoretically like top of the line biologists, what they're using. And this has been part of the problem, like dealing with people, because people are, they're perfect. So radio stuff. So at the beginning I had to research a lot about like antennas and that kind of thing, so I had to brush up on a little linear algebra, not much, thank God. But yeah, so just all that kind of stuff was not fun. And then file input and output, that's what that stands for. And that was really hard as a noob programmer. It was just not fun. And PHP is kind of a weird language, and so I struggled with that a little bit too. Time management, as always, is an issue. We were meeting with EE kids too for part of the project, and that wasn't fun because they were college students, and it was very hard to plan. But there's hope. This is a little 1-minute clip of the drone. This is like relatively recent news. So we eventually hope to attach like an antenna and all the data logging, whatever that kind of stuff, onto this drone. And it's a little YouTube clip. So if you can see if it'll play, maybe you won't, it doesn't matter. But yeah, okay. But yeah, so it cost $3,000 and it flew 140 miles recently, which is a big difference from like a commercial sort of thing that costs like $300,000 and is slightly more reliable, but it's very good. I describe it GoPro without the video. And so I hope that it ends soon, but yeah, very cool. And thank you. That's all I have.
So I know about this one Shark Tracker app that's kind of similar, and it has a line of all the places they've gone since they've had a chip in them.
Mm-hmm.
So is this showing like is it going to show like their direct?
So let me explain a little bit about how this transmitter works. So the transmitter essentially just, it's a really small thing. It's like the size of a quarter. And all it does is send out a radio signal. It doesn't have like any GPS things, because you can usually do that with marine little transmitters. You can like put a whole system and make it last a really long time. So like when they strap on a transmitter to a whale, I mean, the whale transmitter is a lot more heavy duty. It's bigger because, I mean, a whale's bigger. But when you strap it into an orangutan, it has to just export a radio signal. And so it does it like once at 5 o'clock every day. And that's what you deal with. And so it just, in theory, what's gonna happen is you fly this drone out at 5 o'clock in Borneo, and it will pick up things in the nearby area, triangulate it, and then like download it back onto the service, and then you just put it up.
Will you be doing like help with like tracking like endangered species, or are you just doing like
Well,
all
I mean,
animals in general?
it's unclear. I don't know.
So the end goal of this is to relocate the orangutans that are endangered, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea who would be basically responsible for the transportation?
Of what?
Or
Like
would
the
you-
orangutans in the wild?
Yeah.
Or? Nope. That's just kind of like outside our scope. We're just really just designing the UAV for now. Anybody else?
So this is a big project, right? This
It
is,
is.
but
It's like, it's far bigger than my senior project.
right. So you've got just a part of it. So how did
Yeah.
you determine